New for 96. With your hosts, Kevin McCauley and Chris Nguyen.
This, what we're doing is that we're capturing the audio. We just underexpose the audio and turn it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like my talk I gave at the rodeo.
Oh, no. You gave a talk?
Yeah, for Ford. Just for their invited guests.
Okay.
About taking pictures of cars.
Oh, amazing.
Just the other day, Tuesday.
Oh, you didn't tell me about that.
I haven't seen you.
I guess.
So.
Yeah. So, was it just you showing them how to use the exposure setting on the iPhone?
That's all there is to it, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I had some tips. I gave away all my secrets.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was nice.
Yeah. So the success was fun while it lasted. Now there will be copycats galore.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have to worry. But I did a similar thing for Lincoln a couple years ago.
I remember.
And that was cool because we had we'd rented a cool industrial venue and had cars and we positioned them and we had props and things. This was a little more stripped down because it was at the rodeo and so the setting was pretty limited.
Yeah.
But our friend Adam Barrera was there.
Oh, really?
And he was great. He's one of my supporters.
Yeah.
Nicest person I know.
And that's where you met our friend that we met separately, Ben Grimes. Isn't it?
No. I met him working on a Lincoln project at Pebble Beach in 2013.
That was a different one. Okay.
Yeah. No. Adam Barrera was at this one this week.
Oh, I thought you meant the last one.
No.
One.
This one was, I was just saying this was a little more bare bones. It was at the rodeo. It was, we shot within their display. It was indoor lighting. So I was mostly take these tips and apply them elsewhere. Take them and hopefully make people's lives easier. Although I do ask people to walk more for their photos.
Of course, yeah. I don't know what that means.
You got to get further back and shoot tighter in, and it helps.
You really want there to be tension between both bumpers, inside the frame.
That's right. That's actually one of my tips.
Vibrating against the edge.
Yeah. 98% of the width.
Yeah.
If you're really good, you get 99%. No, it was fun. But Adam and I, we walked around after, and we saw this F-150 that was extremely cool in a different display. It was there was a different Ford display. It was outside. It was an F-150. It was a short cab, and it was a gray, kind of like that Miata gray color. This is ceramic.
Oh yeah,
kind of like that.
Kind of a
at least at night,
bluey gray.
Yeah. And then it had. What was it? It was there was no chrome on it.
Oh.
The everything on the bumpers and the front was either just
Color
body
keyed?
colored or black.
Okay.
The lower bumpers are black. And actually I didn't realize that those front bumpers are metal. I knew they were on the Raptor.
Yeah.
But I think a regular one they are too.
Actually, I never thought about that. I guess trucks are still utilitarian.
No, but they're none of them are, except they always have plastic on the grill,
Well,
stuff like that. But bumpers, I don't know. But I do remember when I had that Raptor press car a couple years ago.
Yeah,
and I think I was gonna step. I think I felt the bumper. I was expecting it to be plastic, and it was a metal bumper. And this is the front one, and it's shaped like it wouldn't be metal. But
it's
very
black,
cool.
but it's black. It's not matte. I guess it is considered matte, but it looks like it could be.
It
plastic.
was just gray. It looked like it could be plastic. So props to that.
Yeah, I mean, what trucks have plastic bumper covers? Or you know what? I'm gonna say that I cast doubt on, because I think most manufacturers are still producing trucks as trucks. So, but I might say, do you think that the Ridgeline, which is a good truck, has plastic bumper covers?
I think the majority have plastic bumper covers because it's also an aero thing now. You have to
aero.
You have to. They have these low bumper covers, and then they have the low aero thing that drags under the bottom to clear the air.
Producing good aerodynamic coefficients for exactly? Because gas mileage seems like
it's helping gas mileage. If you can, you're
irrelevant.
I'm being 1,000% serious. They are fighting for that. Did you know the Dodge the Ram has active shutters in the grill?
No,
it does.
I don't know very much about
trucks. That's why all the Fords are V6 twin turbo. Like that's why GM has a 4-cylinder, even if it gets worse gas mileage. But that's another thing.
If I'm honest,
but they are all. If you can get a 1 mile per hour gain or 1 mile per gallon gain on something that gets 18, that's
Well, I understand that because like all of my cars currently get less than 15, so
that's the way you drive.
Maybe not.
Or the distances you drive.
I don't know.
0.75 miles.
But I won't lie. Like I kind of I cast like future vision on all of these trucks, basically, which is that I figured engine technology can overcome any like aerodynamic negatives that a truck might have by way of its shape. Like I just figured with say the EcoBoost engine, just turn up the eco part and you're good to go. You can just
a lot of them, especially like the GM ones, like they have like almost like a skirt in the front that's like clearing the air.
We'll have to look at some photos.
Yeah, because I'm not that interested.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I meant like offline.
Okay,
secretly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out because I haven't paid attention. I mean, like I actually would love a Raptor, but I haven't. But that's also kind of the antithesis of like efficiency.
Let's move this on.
All right.
We have so much Radwood to discuss.
Okay.
I'm so excited to talk about it.
We're starting here.
Yeah. Well, we had Chris Perkins
We haven't even introed the podcast.
I'm trying to get this thing going.
Oh my God. How would they know what podcast this is?
They clicked the picture.
What if they clicked on an accident?
Well, let's say this right now.
All right. Welcome to another episode of New for 96.
Good read. We had Chris Perkins on last week. We did. Down here.
Chris Perkins.
Daniel Sloan.
Road Track. Chris came down from New York. Daniel came down from Portland.
Former guests, both of them.
Yeah. And we drove up to Austin, Texas, where the 8th Radwood, 8th or 9th? Brad said
the 8th.
They had 8 events.
So this might have been
this might be the 9th then, which is crazy because I feel like it just started, and it kind of did, like a little over a year ago. So that's very cool, and they put on a good event.
Yeah.
And so much so that a convoy was formed. It was a pretty cool convoy.
It was great. We started off at our friend Jordan's shop, Modern Air Cooled, Houston, Texas. We started in the Heights. We had, I think it was 12 cars. It seemed like more, but I think someone counted.
Cars, yeah.
And it was 12. But it was Porsches and a Testarossa and Lancia Delta and
a 993 turbo.
Yeah.
A 944 S2.
I said Porsches.
Fine. Your car, my Celsior.
Yeah, your Celsior.
Yeah. A gaggle of Boxsters.
Yeah. So I had created a route which served us okay for most of it, but it did work out. Like we had some very inclement weather. We left. It was cool traveling in this giant convoy out on I-10.
It was.
And seeing the Testarossa, like just driving amongst normal cars, because that's just such a thrill.
I have to say, like, that was one of my favorite moments.
Seeing the car in your mirror or in front of you.
Seeing the Testarossa in my rearview mirror because, you see enough photos of it, but when you see it in real life, in motion, it's just so different. And it looked like I was looking back at a movie almost because it almost looked like it because you don't.
And the headlights were up.
Headlights were up because it was raining.
Yeah,
raining and very foggy, so it was very moody. It was a very moody drive up. And then when it was in front, also like spectacular because it's so big. Yeah. Or it looks. I don't know. Actually, I don't know how wide it actually is, but it looks so wide.
Well, it's funny because you did the same thing I did, where I took like the toll road. It's very boring, but anyway, I catch up to the convoy and I sort of pass it and slot it in like the second place because I got off the much faster moving toll lane.
Yeah,
and I'm cruising by the Testarossa and I see it just in relation to other cars like a Focus or something, and it's just crazy because it's like half the height, and it's so cool, and it's just one of those cars that gets more spectacular as time goes on. Like a Testarossa looks more ridiculous now than it did 15 years ago because every other car around it has gotten bigger and more ungainly and taller and weirder.
And that's part of like the feel that people have for like cars like this now is that the further we get away from that aesthetic, the more exotic it looks.
Totally. Yeah, you've summed up Radwood.
But yeah, so it wasn't the most ideal in terms of preserving our car's cleanliness going up there, but it was also like a great kind of backdrop.
Yeah, it was fun. We got off the highway. We got to do some nice twisty roads.
Yeah,
we took them pretty leisurely, but we had a good group.
Yeah.
And then we met up. It rained hard, and then it stopped. We got to this like small town of Fayetteville, and it was like a perfect little town center, town square to stop and just sort of reflect on it. And we all kind of basically parted ways after that.
I love that all of our old cars made it. No one's car died permanently. I will say that the Celsior actually...
Did I have the oldest car?
Did you? You might have. Yeah, I think your car was the oldest.
Because all the Porsches were like 993 or 964.
986s, 1993. Oh, two 993s. Yeah, yours was probably the oldest because mine's a 92 and the Delta was... what year was that? Late 80s, early 90s?
No way to know.
I'm not quite sure. Someone confirmed for us. Just look at the photos. It was parked next to an Integrale at Radwood.
Yeah.
And
that was Tom's car, who had the Testarossa, and he also had the Delta. And his brother came in from California, and like he taught him how to drive stick, so he could drive this car.
Oh, I didn't know that. That is actually really cool.
Yeah, it's super cool.
And like super cool of him to hand over the keys to a temperamental Italian car.
Yeah.
To drive a manual for the first time. So that car also died once on our drive.
Did it?
Yeah.
You just said that all the cars were fine, and then you started talking about problems.
Didn't die permanently.
Okay.
Because my car, which I think either has an alternator or an ECU issue, occasionally turns off when I come to a stop. And it happened around Fayetteville.
No.
We came to a stop when the Boxsters were putting their tops up when it started raining. And so we were there for like...
at the gas stop?
No. It was at a stop sign.
Okay.
And so it started really coming down because they rode with the tops down for a while.
Yeah.
And so we were waiting at the stop sign, and like all of a sudden, like the music dies, and then the tack stops. And I'm like, oh shit, don't die here. Don't
Levi's like, we're going to have to get up and walk.
Yeah. Kevin is like motioning like a baby trying to reach for a bottle, which he's trying to reach for the bottle of scotch.
Very accurate, actually.
So the car started right up, and that's what happens now. It dies, but it'll start right up, no hesitation. And then the Delta, that on 610, when we had just gotten on and there was some traffic, we came to a stop, and then I noticed that it was behind me, and I noticed that it wasn't following me anymore. Like it was kind of a few car lengths back, and I saw the lights like turn on and off as he was trying to start it.
He might have just stalled. I mean, he was not the most
I guess
experienced
that's true
driver
too.
with a manual.
Fine.
No disrespect.
So then what we're trying to say is the car that was the least reliable on this ride was essentially a Lexus LS 400.
Yeah. How close is yours to 1 million miles? How many more? 970 to go, right?
It's closer to 1 million kilometers than it is 1 million miles. I can tell you that much.
Okay.
It's got 35,000 miles on it at the moment, so just a few to go.
So,
anyways, so we got to Austin. Radwood was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got there way early in the morning.
We cleaned up our
cars. It stopped raining. I mean, like the window between the start of the show and when we could clean the cars was very small. And so the roads were still wet. And the directions, unfortunately, were...
Yeah, I think that was the only way to the track was you have to take a dirt road.
Unfortunately, like Google Maps didn't account for like a road closure. And so...
Yeah, we did have some detours.
We took a detour through like this very wet road.
It was all wet.
It was all wet. I think this road was particularly wet, and the dirt track going in also did not help. Help. So we when we finally got there, I started lining up at the entrance of the track, and
we had royalty.
We had royalty. We bought the royalty positions. Although one spectator was very confused by the royalty status and was angered. He seemed angered. I could not tell. He looked like
he was a boomer. He was an old man. He was angry.
He was a character out of like a 1970s movie about a used car salesman.
It was Gil.
Yeah, it was Gil. Anyways, so he was complaining like he thought that royalty meant that like it was selected
the most special car, the best, like
so
pre-selected.
He was wondering why certain cars, which I liked the thought that some people came to this not realizing the concept or context and or some of the irony around the show and took it seriously, because I think some people did. And so it was just interesting hearing some of their reactions.
What do you mean by the irony?
As in like dressing up in like 80s clothing.
Yeah.
Because obviously while the 80s and 90s fashion are back, like people ham it up.
Yeah.
So what were we saying? So we lined up.
It was beautiful. As soon as we got to the track, the weather was beautiful.
Gorgeous.
It was a perfect day. It was nice and cool until probably noon.
Yeah.
But it was really fun entering our own cars into Radwood. We lined up. It was a little bit of a waiting to park situation in the spots because there's a lot of cars. I got to arrange them and all this stuff. But it was very cool. I got to park next to you. Art was like, "Oh yeah," I had parked really close to you, and then Art was like, "Oh no, you should." Move it, like take up more space. You're royalty. So I he told me to park it parallel so you could see the stripes really well. It was parked to the side. So it was kind of cool because I was the only car in that row that was parked like perpendicular, parallel with the walking path. So that was fun. And it was cool. It was a thrill watching people all day. Like, we're so excited about your car and your, the interior and everything. It was funny because like, I told you this, but it would be like, there'd be a crowd of 12 people around, and then I'd come back and there'd be no one around. But as soon as like one or two people started like checking it out, then a crowd would build around it because people were like, "Oh, why are these two guys looking at this car? Like, oh, we got to check it out too." So then you'd have another throng of people. Yeah,
it was really weird watching people kind of geek out over the car because, like, as in real life, it's just like this discreet looking car it looks like an LS 400, and so like I don't blame people for walking right past it, but
it is super clean.
It's super clean, and I decided to roll down the windows at one point, and I think that helped because then you could see the thing that made it special, which was like the cloth interior, and then the whole backseat situation.
And you had the great props. It was very understated. It was very period correct. You had the Newton and the newspaper, the Clinton Wins newspaper.
I had a 92 newspaper and an Apple Newton from 1990.
And there was a guy that had like a Clinton Wins like t-shirt.
Oh yeah. He was cool. I think he drove an Alfa Spider, the green one. That was a beautiful car.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was like delighted that people like were delighted to see the car. And people sat in the back seat, and
I
was a little bit afraid of that at first, like because you suggested like, well, why don't you leave the doors unlocked? I was like, I don't know, and then I ended up doing it, and it was fine. Like people sat in it, and I saw like several photos of like the rear center console tag.
That's awesome.
And so your car. You had a great prop too, the license plate.
I had the most props. I don't know if I had the most props of any car, but I had a lot.
Like a bad stand-up comic, but it worked out well.
Well, because I know from Radwoods, I know 911s at Radwood are boring.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I will make it up with props. So I started playing and acquiring stuff ever since Radwood LA. So I had the club, I had the auto shade, which matched the stripes, basically the red, white, and blue kind of. And then
so it was the auto shade. It's the shade with the sunglasses.
Shade with the sunglasses.
And on the back side it says it was help call the police.
It's
or something.
New old stock from the 80s.
That's crazy.
It was like $25.
And I believe it's called the club.
Yeah, it is the club. I had the club.
Yeah, and the pièce de résistance.
The Assman license plate.
The Assman license plate. It was in New York, stamped. Was it?
It's real stamped.
It's stamped. that says "Ass Man."
Yeah, it's like a prop plate that Jeff Jablansky sent me. It's a
amazing.
Seinfeld reference.
Yeah, it's a Seinfeld reference.
Which
when Kramer got the wrong plates for a
And
proctologist.
And I was like not even refreshed on the episode, so I couldn't even remember it. So people were talking to me about it, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like someone's like, is this doctors only parking? I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, oh, proctologist.
Oh my god, many people like were like, I was delighted though when people didn't get it, and they thought that it was just a reference to a preference, the ass man.
Right.
So, but you did get a lot of proctology jokes.
Yeah. No, it was great. It was fun. But yeah, at least I feel like I earned a place for a G model 911 there.
And not only did you have prominent parking, you parked across from your very first car.
Yes.
Explain.
Well, so our friend OJ in Austin has some very cool cars. Nicest man, and he owns an LFA.
Oh, he does?
He owns an LFA, and he recently acquired another exotic car, a 1994 Ford Probe GT.
He owns an LFA?
He has an LFA.
Okay, that's cool.
He also has the NSX Zanardi. But he's like, I saw this for sale. He's like, I had one. I used to have one, and he wanted it.
Wow.
And he got it, and it's in good shape.
It was pristine, yeah.
It's got 71,000 miles. Nice. Mine had 79 when I bought it in 2000.
Yeah.
And I've got it up to like 150,000.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. It was cool for me to sit in the Ford Probe GT and like pretend to shift through the gears and just like touch the pedals and everything.
Moment.
It really was not a great interior. It really was not a great transmission.
It was a semi-economy product from Ford.
I mean, everything then was pretty rough.
But it had like 90s optimism. Like it had I
think the exterior looked amazing.
Yeah, the exterior looked amazing. The interior was like futuristic. And like it even like I always nerd out over like 90s car like tech, and I love that it had the period like graphic equalizer.
See, mine didn't have that.
Yours
so that was all foreign to me.
Like it's nuts that people like graphic equalizers in their cars, because like here's a thing with like 24 little levers that you can't even read, but yet here they are directly in front of you, and you're supposed to do something with them.
You're going to modify them to make it sound better through like the world's worst speakers.
Yeah, exactly. But that was cool seeing that car there. And we have a list here, a questionnaire that Kevin's prepared about our just kind of picks, because there was a lot to see.
There was a lot to see. It was 350 or 60 or 80 cars.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that venue.
Yep.
Driveway Austin.
The Driveway Austin?
The Driveway Austin. It was really excellent. I've been to 4 Radwoods, and this was probably my favorite venue. Yeah. Because it was so cool. It was very organic, and just you're in a racetrack. So, and it was like in the woods too. So there's trees. There wasn't a ton of. I mean, there was potentially shade.
Yeah.
But it was just really cool.
Yeah. Well, you're on a racetrack, which is super cool.
Yeah, you're on a racetrack. So like that F40 and 959 were parked on like the curbing.
Yeah. That was really cool. Were they parked on the apexes? I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
Okay.
They only have the curbing on like the inner corner kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were on the apex. I think they were just arranged like.
Okay. Yeah. This is my third one, and although the Peterson was cool just because it was the Peterson, this was cool. A much better venue for kind of wandering around. And I guess Road Atlanta is. I don't know if they do it on. Oh, they don't do it on
the Road Atlanta. They don't do it on the track because they are using the track for other things.
I guess so. That makes. What about Sonoma Raceway?
I'm not sure.
I'm
not sure. I think they're using the track for
other things
like Lemons.
Yeah, but this was a great venue. I'm
the first one at Marina at the Bay.
Yeah.
Was really cool, but it was small, but it was a cool location. It was very very pretty. But this was really neat.
And this is like our home state, and so
it was a special thrill for us to drive up and bring our friends and bring people and get people that have heard and seen us posting about Radwood for all this time. They get to go.
It was an accurate representation of the automotive community, I think, in Texas because I think they were expecting more trucks, or at least that's what they said at the very end. And instead, it was a really good mix of German or European, Japanese, and on the Japanese front, like there was like a strong JDM showing.
Oh yeah, it was bigger than any Redwood before.
And that's pretty representative because like in Houston, like the community is fairly large. And
we're at a port.
We're at a port, and there's like there is a dedicated dealership here that sells nothing but and. So I think that was really interesting, just to have that kind of perspective on automotive enthusiasm.
It was refreshing. It was like a different spin, and there was like 3 Skylines and none were GTRs, which is I think super cool.
Yeah,
that's like low key.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, before we like go through each and every single car ahead of time, why don't we just go through our favorites list?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait. Here we go.
Actually, I don't have a pick for best BMW. So I kind of wanted to make our own little, not our own awards, these are not awards, but just like our own little talking points. But I do think Redwood, I think there should be more awards and more obscure ones and more things. And not necessarily, like, I know it add time to the ceremony, so don't do that. But just leave people awards, like leave people recognition. I'm not saying I want that. I'm not saying I need recognition, but I think people would be really jazzed.
Would like recognition.
I don't deserve that, but I think people would be really jazzed if it's like, oh, I won like best BMW or whatever.
I read his diary. He was very
best seat pattern, like stuff like that would be.
Yeah. Oh
really,
yeah. No, that'd be cool. Just like
if they just left
like
stuff,
a certificate where you just handwrite in like this is the coolest.
It would just be
thing
like a little bit
show.
Extra special because there's so many cars, and to sum it up with like 5 awards that are car related.
And those are cool. Like the awards are cool.
They're really cool.
But like it does seem like there's a lot of kind of there are other just kind of standout things that you can't. It's hard to pre-categorize because you don't see them until you see them at the show.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but just a thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to go through So we have a list of potential bets that we saw. So why don't you start?
Well, I don't have a pick for best BMW. I'm gonna mooch off of yours.
All right. Oh, are we just like ping ponging?
Yeah. Okay. I'll do it.
Actually, that makes more sense to ping pong.
We'll ping pong. But what do you have?
Okay. So for best BMW, I say reluctantly the E30 M3.
Okay.
But mainly because it's pristine, and I say reluctantly just because like I've seen them before, and I'm a big BMW fan. I don't know if there was anything there that I would say was the best of something. But the E30 M3 did have like cool like M-Rain interior, and it was pristine. So, and it was parked across from the Alfa Zagato, which was way cool too.
We should have a best Italian.
We
category.
didn't. Yeah, there's not that in here. Okay, so
we'll add that.
Yeah.
Okay. Mine. I'm gonna say this is like total fan service, literally. Drew's E38.
Oh yeah.
Because that was super cool, and it was super
really
cool to meet a listener.
Yeah, he's the one who received
the hot cars,
the
titular hot cars.
Hello,
filled
Drew.
with hot cars.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well. I didn't make the connection until like after Radwood that you were Team Radar Love on Twitter. But it's always nice to meet people from the online world.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was a very cool interaction.
Yeah.
And it's cool, and that's what's so cool about Radwood is that it brought out like every car person of note in Texas was there.
Yeah.
Which was great.
No, and I think honestly, like it's at Radwood events where I've met the most online people.
Yeah.
For lack of a better descriptor.
The most online people or the most hyphen online people?
Both, really. Yes. Okay, so best Japanese US market. What was it for you?
Oh, okay. Well, there was a bone stock silver RX-7 FD R2.
Oh yeah,
and it came in, and I was so jazzed. I was so excited for this because
2 R2s.
There was 2 R2s, and so like a bit of nerdy history with the RX-7 is that the R1 was like the racetrack version for just 93.
Yeah,
and so some of those were yellow. I think some were red, and I think some were black.
Yeah,
and that's the one that has the front and rear spoilers and whatever. They didn't sell very many 94 models
Yeah.
or 95 models. And for 94 and 95, they ditched the yellow, but they replaced the R1 with the R2, and you could get it in silver. And again, I don't know how many were sold in silver, but with that option package.
Yeah.
But I saw this car, it had the spoilers, and it had like the seats, which were like synthetic suede seats.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that an R2? And he was like, yeah. And he seemed so surprised that I recognized it.
Yeah.
And it was stock, and it looked so perfect.
That is cool.
So it was very cool to see that. And there was a black one also. It had aftermarket wheels that were maybe not to my preference, but it was otherwise stock. It looked like
I saw that one roll in.
They were both great. Yeah, I saw them both roll in. So that was really cool. I love
cool.
FDs, and clean ones are so rare these days.
Yeah, yeah. And we should say like the best preservation award did go to a CRX, a very perfect CRX. What was the generation?
I'm not familiar.
I'm not familiar too. I was about to spout out.
The iconic like 1989 generation.
Yeah. And it was very cool.
Yeah.
However, I'm going to award best Japanese US market car to the Infiniti M30 Cabriolet.
I loved that.
There's like I don't know what the official car paint color is. I think it was like a candy red kind of
I
color.
loved seeing that car.
And the reason why, like, it's because that was before Infiniti was Infiniti. It was before people who bought Infinitis because it was at the time like a very interesting mark. And the M30, like, it's rare. None of them exist anymore because they're all trashed.
Right.
And this one was pristine, and it was parked butt to butt with a Saab 900 Cabriolet. And so I'm going to say that for rarity, and I actually do like M30s.
I liked that. That was cool in the sense that like that Alero at LA was cool, where it's just like an obscure car.
You have preserved this car.
Yeah.
Like, that is amazing.
That's what Radwood's all about to me.
I agree. Okay, so best Japanese car, JDM.
I'm gonna have it give a tie. There was that WRX STI of
I saw that,
the
the white one.
The white one that was beautiful.
Nice. Yeah.
Super cool.
Yep. And I think we're gonna have a tie here, but go on.
Sarah's.
The
Sarah's, not just because of the car, not just because of funky mode.
Yeah.
Also casual mode.
In casual mode.
But the owners of both were like the nicest people and so cool. And I started taking a picture, not even like I'm not even using like a real camera. I'm using my phone. I'm taking a picture of this era, and this guy like decked out in the most 80s bodacious stuff ever is sitting in the passenger seat. He's like, "Get in, bro." And I was like, "What?" And he urges me to get in. I'm like closing the door and stuff. And he tells me, he gives me the key. He's like, "You got to start it." I was like, "Do I?" And I did. I revved it. You couldn't hear it, but it was just really cool. He was super nice. I wish I got his name.
Yeah,
but both of them. The other person did the demonstration with the funky mode.
Yeah. I think that was his brother or something, but the younger one. And they were super nice. And obviously, the Sarah is my pick for JDM car.
It's so cool.
It's so cool, and there were two of them, and there was one at LA, and so we had two here, a black one and a
I think it was with
green one.
The one in LA, I thought it was like black and silver or something. The one in LA was green, and it was part of Barrett Jackson, I think.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting. Okay,
part of their sponsorship.
I didn't know that. This one was cool. I talked with a guy, his friend who had flown down from Michigan. His name escapes me at the moment, but they both offered trades on the car. One either for an MR2 for the guy from Michigan, and then the Sarah. I thought the Sarah was cool before, but it wasn't until this one, for whatever reason, that made me really admire them, and I kind of want one.
Yeah.
Because they're not that expensive.
Right.
And it's such a unique and weird car. Like, there's no performance involved with this.
I feel like, to use your word, I feel like those doors make it too aspirational. I can't picture you getting out with dignity of those doors at a place.
No, it's because I don't wear underwear, and I would Britney myself out of that every time. But I don't know if that offer was serious, but I did. I thought about it for a second, just to get a different experience, because the sales here may or may not be up for sale soon. I'm still into it. But I'm also interested in experiencing some other things.
What if you got the fax machine?
If I could find the factory glove box fax machine, it would stave off selling it for a few months.
Okay, we're gonna find this. I actually was looking at pictures today.
Because for those several months, I would just be sitting in the passenger seat waiting for a fax to come in. So
I was looking at pictures of the fax machine.
Yeah. It was substantial.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Best Porsche.
Okay. This is this is a hard one because we're dumb Porsche idiots. And here's the thing. I don't know that I have a favorite one because there were some pretty good ones there. The 959 obviously was amazing. But I wouldn't pick that as a favorite because we've seen them before at various other shows.
Right.
Not to downplay the amazingness that it was.
What's your pick?
Okay. No, here's the thing. I don't have a pick.
Okay.
I have several because it's just so hard. They're so different and amazing in their anyways, blah 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 blah. The Mexico Blue 993 RS was pretty cool. Nate's Kremer 930.
Yes.
Excellent. We drove up with that on the Corral up. And the one from Jordan's shop, the Arena Red 993 Turbo, the Kill Bugs Fast Turbo.
Well, I was going to say Nate's car.
Yeah.
But I got to say that, that Special Wishes, family car, the family owned. It was a Carrera.
Forgot about that.
It was a Carrera with a full tan leather,
and
interior, steering wheel, vents.
It is
everything
beyond full leather from the factory notion of full leather. Everything, even the knob.
I've never seen a G model like this.
I haven't either. And so the backstory was, it was owned by a member of the Porsche family.
Wait, I'm saying Carrera, but was it an SC? It had the SC
No,
wheel.
it was a Carrera. I'm pretty sure.
Was there a year that the Carrera had the SC wheel, or was this just special?
I don't know. It was
the wonky 3-spoke one.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
And it was a Euro because it had the side markers.
Yeah.
It might have been an SC. I'm not sure, but either way, you know what? It was an SC because I remember the small vents. Dash vents. But everything was leather, absolutely everything.
And you couldn't really, it was very dirty on the outside, but it was a metallic black.
It was the black color. Metallic, which it was the, a special mix, basically early PTS. That was neat. Actually, I completely forgot about that.
I did write down Nate's Kremer tuned 930, which is super cool because it's period tuned, and that's a big thing for me. Is I don't want to see your 80s Supra with modern mods. I want to see the period correct stuff. This Porsche is how they did it in the 80s.
Yeah, rare.
And it's
very
super
rare.
cool, and it looks from the front. That's the one car he was parked up on that upper row, and that's the one car where I'm instead of backing in, I wish you had just nosed in so everyone could see that wing. Because the wing is wild.
Yeah,
it's
you're right.
pure 935.
From the front, it's so discreet. And
the wing just extends so far out.
Yeah.
It's extra louvered. It's extra cool.
Yeah.
It's great.
That was very cool. Okay, so the next one is Best Wagon.
I said the E34 Touring M5.
Yep.
Which was great.
Okay, so I wrote down that I wanted to say the E34 M5, but I'm going to count SUVs as wagons because they technically are tall wagons. And I'm going to say the Range Rover Classic that Dutch Safari brought.
Oh, yeah.
They brought two of them. One was Euro spec, and the other one, I'm not quite sure if it was Euro spec or not, but they brought a pristine one, and it was beautiful. And they're kind of on my mind right now.
Yeah.
And the older one was cool in that it had the most basic interior, that was retrofitted from clearly, ages before this car was produced. The radio was, and this was a left-hand drive car on the left-hand side. Where an air vent would be, because that was the only place where they could put it. It was such a retrofitted car.
Wow.
But that's my wagon of choice.
That's a good choice.
Okay, so the next one, Best Props.
Okay, this is kind of a cop out.
Go on.
It's not really props. It's
Yeah.
just an accessory that
Sure.
was not added. But the brown Saab with the louvers
Yeah.
that said Saab.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Okay, yeah, that's an accessory.
It was.
But that was cool. That was cool. I'd seen those louvers before, but I actually never noticed that it had like stamped out. Or it was cut out.
Yeah.
Saab on the.
It was a beautiful
sides
car
of the louvers.
too.
That was beautiful. Yeah.
The color was really cool, and it looked like it was in good shape. I didn't look at it as close
Yeah.
as the other one. We did
Yeah.
look at that black one.
We looked at the black one, which is local here.
Yeah.
And our friend Blake Wrong was texting us throughout the whole show to check it out because he was very interested in purchasing a Saab one day.
One day.
One day.
Yes.
So, best prop, I thought you meant by best prop, like best prop. And so I went with Bill Lumberg's coffee mug.
Oh, that's great.
And that's because, so there was a guy who won best costume or best dressed. And he dressed up as Bill Lumberg from Office Space, which was filmed in Austin. And
he had the Initech mug.
he had the Initech mug, and he carried it around for the entire show.
Yeah.
From basically 8 a.m. to 3. It never, at least as far as I know, it never left his hands.
I forgot to even carry around my weird coffee mug that I brought.
Oh, I didn't know you did.
Yeah, it was the weird shaped Porsche one.
Oh.
Yeah,
well
I
then,
forgot. I
too late
left it
now.
in my car.
Red-
Anyway, I'd like to amend my best prop. Best prop, I'm going to have to say, has to be a gift from our listener, Ilya.
Yes.
A Goodyear hat.
A Goodyear hat. Which
of
was
amazing prominence
yeah.
left with us.
Yes, after the Radwood Awards, the official ones, we came back to my car and there was this hat sitting in the passenger seat on the left-hand side, and I was like, oh, like I thought it belonged to someone who had sat in the car previously, and it wasn't until like a day later because I just did not even look at Twitter, and he had tweeted at us and said like, oh, he had left a hat in the car and we'd completely missed him.
Yeah.
So that was very cool.
And he emailed us and he said that it was I think it was a gift. It was given to him from Davy Jones, who is a racer who raced at Le Mans, one Indy, one Le Mans, and used to have a
So
karting
cool.
track in
Yeah.
Houston. And I've met Davy Jones, and it's a super cool gift. It's
That's
an Indy
very cool.
1996 Goodyear hat from the Victory Circle.
That's super cool.
It's really cool.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, very nice.
Kevin and I have since cut it in half so that each of us can wear one half of each. But no, it was very nice. Thank you. We submit then the next one, best Scandinavian. For you.
I gotta say the brown Saab.
I wrote down brown Saab as well.
Yeah.
It was a 900 turbo, 80s, early 80s, because it had not flush. It had sealed beams. And yeah, even though there was an 850R there, if there was a T5R there, that would have been my best pick,
Yeah.
especially a wagon. But the brown Saab gets it. Best American.
This is where I'll say the Probe GT.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
No contest for me.
Was the Probe GT a European?
It was a Mazda. No, it was a Mazda.
Oh, it was a Mazda. That's right.
It was a Mazda 626 and MX6.
Yeah.
Engine and chassis and everything.
Yeah.
The whole car was metric.
So it was Japanese.
Yeah, it was
Could have been
Japanese.
your best Japanese pick.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
Yeah. Mine was the Neon ACR.
Oh, okay.
And the reason for that is that I hadn't thought about them since they probably came out, and that someone went through the trouble to restore a Neon ACR or a Neon at all. And it was cool to just see it like in its basically showroom condition. So I'm going to say that was my like best of show American car, just for the fact that someone went through the trouble to...
Yeah, I saw it leaving on a trailer, so it kind of bums me out. That kind of party foul.
Yeah, it is a garage queen.
Spirit of Radwood, not for them.
I know. It didn't have a plate. I did notice that. And so, yeah, it was trailered off. But, I mean, it's a rare car. There were several Neons there, by the way.
Yeah.
Like a whole gaggle like rolled in together.
Yeah.
Which
Multiple
I believe that's kind of
hellos.
cool because
It is cool. Have we seen a neon at Radwood before?
no, I don't. I don't know that I
don't
have.
think so.
And the neon, that's a good Radwood car, I think, as far as like the norm core range goes. But here I'm gonna put another runner up though for that because it's so hard to kind of just pick a few.
Sure.
But there was a Buick Roadmaster and the
Oh yeah,
Oldsmobile equivalent. I forget
those are great.
what it was called. But I don't know if you noticed, but the Oldsmobile wagon had been manual converted.
No shit.
It was a manual one.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool because
That's cool.
I think those are really cool like cars. So yeah. So those are my American picks. Best Mercedes.
I don't know Mercedes, but the one with the really cool wheels that apparently came off a rally car from a junkyard were really cool.
Okay, I don't remember that one.
It was good. It's fine. I don't know.
You
I don't
just
know
said like, what? S class, E class, C class?
C or E.
What? You should know this. It's not like the modern Mercedes
No, but
where
no,
it's
no, but
impossible to tell
back in, like,
which one it is.
I'm gonna say like 1989, 90. So it was pre C class. It was probably the E class.
So
C class wasn't until like
it was a 190. So it would have been like a 190E of some kind.
yeah, with like the real like remember the taxi wheels?
Like the hubcaps.
Kind of, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
maybe.
Oh my God! How do
don't
you
know.
not? You know, in
I wrote the category for best Mercedes, but I don't know.
Okay, fine. So best Mercedes for me was the Euro W126 S class. That was the one that.
The ambassador one?
No. This one was a blue one that Chris Perkins and I saw.
Oh yeah, he talked about that a lot.
Yeah, and it was cloth interior, hubcaps, Euro spec. It was a Euro car, so it had the short bumpers, the one-piece headlights, and it was pristine, even though it had 270,000 miles on it. And someone should buy that because it was for sale for like, yeah, probably a little bit high, like 4,500 or 4,000, something like that.
That seems fair.
But I mean, like, also,
was in
how
good
many of them
shape.
are there around? Yeah.
So best Italian, we didn't write it, but I think we need to do it.
Yeah.
I will say, the Diablo.
Okay.
It's the worst Diablo that exists.
Yeah.
Because it's a spider with chrome wheels and it's black,
it's
which is the worst color.
Rare.
But it's cool. It's just really cool. And I don't know if there's been a Diablo at Radwood. I think this was a first.
Could be.
And the Diablo is extremely cool.
Yeah. For me, it's at Alfa Zagato
Okay.
because I'd never seen one before, and it is actually beautiful in person.
Mm-hmm.
And the dimensions are so weird.
Mm-hmm.
And like when I say beautiful, it is. It's not objectively beautiful; it's subjectively beautiful, and I liked it. And I liked all the it was so quirky.
Yeah.
So that's my pick for best Italian.
That's interesting 'cause that's my pick for Radisson Show.
Really?
Yeah, the SC. It's so weird. It's so cool to see. It's such a treat that it was brought out, and it's. It is optimism.
Yeah.
It is like the most
Very.
extreme, intense thing. You
Oh
couldn't
my
do a
God,
car
it's
like that now. And the fact that someone
so
brought it to Radwood.
Italian. Yeah.
This has to be the first one at Radwood. Oh god. And it was great. I loved seeing it there. It was my Radisson show. And I
my
feel like it
God.
was so overshadowed by the 959 and F40 and
I
stuff
know.
like that.
Oh, people were freaking out over it. Like,
Oh no, I'm sure they were, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's like when I think back to like memories of Radwood, I think of like the 959 and
Yeah,
F40 kind
yeah.
of in that row and the Callaway. But
oh yeah, and the Callaway
but
Stingray.
the SZ was just like this understated, in its own way, like
Yeah.
weird, quirky thing.
Yeah.
that was very cool.
Do you remember what year it was?
I don't know.
Okay.
I know they were all like 89 to 91.
Yeah.
ish,
But
maybe
yeah,
92.
the first one I've ever seen.
I was telling Chris Perkins I only saw the first one last year at Concorso Italiano Gabagool.
Well, that's.
And that was just last year, and I saw one. So
Hang on, I'm getting
it's exciting.
a refill.
No. There it goes. So after Radwood,
What's next? No, wait, there's more
is there more
on
categories?
your list. Yeah, best rally.
Oh, best rally car? Oh, shit. I thought that. See, I had fewer categories on my own list, but best rally car, I guess. It'd be the Cosworth.
It'd be the Cosworth.
Let's go Cosworth.
Same. It was the the Escort Cosworth, which also won Best in Show. What was that?
It won something.
It won something. I think it didn't win Best in Show because that was the
Callaway.
The Callaway. It won something. I forget what it was, but that was a good example. I think we saw one at the first Radwood LA.
Maybe there was a lot of rally cars there. There was like an R5 Turbo and stuff.
Yeah,
there was a Cosworth. Biggest surprise.
Biggest surprise. Okay, so my biggest surprise is not a single car, but rather that all the Italian cars not only made it there, but left of their own power. So that's my biggest surprise. What is yours?
I would say that Infiniti M30 convertible. That's what I had written down. I thought it was
really okay.
It was very cool to see.
Yeah.
It was so unexpected.
Yeah. And like I hope there was one at there was a pristine one at Radwood LA, the last one. And it was just kind of parked. It was parked next to the low mile SI that Steve Ewing had brought from the Honda collection. Okay.
It was good. It was a good event. I had so much fun. I mean, it really flew by for me.
It did. Yeah, we were outside.
We were outside for like 9 hours, 8 hours,
and
or something.
I literally have the scars to prove that because I stupidly
tried to give you sunscreen.
I know, and I say, I never sunburn, and it's true. I don't sunburn unless I'm outside in direct sunlight for 9 hours.
Yeah, never do that again.
No, and because honestly, I thought it was going to cloud over because it'd been so cloudy and rainy, and then it cleared up just
it did kind of cloud over at the end. But anyway,
but not time to not. I'm still two-toned. Like my glasses, my large glasses, like I have an outline on my face.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it is painful.
Yes.
So that is what I leave Radwood with: memories and a severe sunburn.
Well, so post Radwood, we had some friends over. I think we'll splice in some clips of some thoughts. We had some opinions and some thoughts fresh on our mind, and we're going to cut those in right now.
Thanks for listening to those. I apologize for the quality because we literally just put a recorder on a table.
Yeah.
And also everyone was very inebriated. Everyone Ubered there.
Well,
very certain.
Yes. In a manual Ford Fusion.
In a manual
Ford Fusion current gen.
Yeah.
Uber.
And Daniel, we apologize for angering the neighbors of the B&B.
Yeah.
As we did get very excited talking about
this.
No,
he's not going to hear this. It's okay. So the day after Radwood,
yes,
we drove back. We had a smaller group.
Yeah, I could not join you. I had to pick up my newly damaged friend. My friend who was newly damaged. He'd broken his foot, and so I had to go pick him up.
So Chris Perkins and we talked to our friend Jordan, and we had exchanged information. Not exchanged information, but we had talked the day before about. Jordan was like, "You got to drive." Oh, the night before we were all drinking. Jordan was like telling Chris Perkins, "You got to drive. You got to drive this 944 S2. It's a 944 with a 3-liter motor from the 968. A little bit better, like the turbo brakes and handling and stuff."
Jordan had just bought this car.
Jordan bought the car, so Jordan's like, "You gotta drive this car." Chris Perkins was like, "Hey, when we leave, maybe we can coordinate with them. We could, do a drive." So it worked out that we met up. We all met up. It was a group of 4 cars, and Jordan and his employees and some other friends, Danielle in Houston, and so we met up. We rendezvoused in Bastrop. Then we drove to Fayetteville, and so Chris Perkins getting his 944, and I asked Jordan. I was like, "Can I drive that one?" The other car from his shop was a 993 Turbo, the Arena Red one, the one that you mentioned.
The one that I mentioned.
And so he's like, "Yeah, sure." So he drove my car.
Yep.
And off we went. We found some really good roads. It was a beautiful sunny day. It was like one of the most perfect driving days ever.
Opposite of the drive up.
Yeah, basically. We kind of reversed the way back, except we found like a twistier road between Fayetteville and between New Ulm and Cat Spring.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. So I got to drive that 993 Turbo for about 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's excellent.
I'm
jealous.
So excellent.
I'm going to have to go to the shop and ask if I can just like take it around the block.
But around the block is nothing.
Whatever.
It was insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it was funny.
Did you give it the beans?
We were on such tight roads.
Yeah.
I gave it like 95% beans or like 90% beans. But it's very fast.
Yeah.
And I've driven some fast cars, but I'll touch on that for a second. But just to give you perspective, so I drove that, and then we get to the next stop, I think in Cat Spring.
Yeah.
And so Chris Perkins gets out of the 944, and he's like, oh man, he's like, oh, this is great. This was lovely. He said, this is lovely, like 5 times. He's like, this was lovely. The 944 S2. He's like, the torque. And I was just like, yes. Talk to me about torque. After I got out of the turbo.
Yep.
So we swapped. Jordan stayed in my car.
Yeah.
I drove the 944. We drove like the next 20 minutes to like the highway basically to get back. Because I took Chris Perkins to the airport.
Yeah.
So I drove the 944 for the next bit. Chris, it was maybe another 35 minutes. And Chris drove the 993.
Yeah.
And we both got back into my 911, and he was like, what the hell? He's like, that car was so good. It was so insane.
Oh
it was it's so fast.
Yeah.
And it's the 993 Turbo is like the most, I mean, it's one of the most visceral cars I've ever driven because it is, this sounds really obvious. This is what it says on the tin. It is a 993 Turbo, or it is a air-cooled 911 with 400 plus horsepower.
Yep.
So we were in some really tight roads where I'm kind of just steering and braking and kind of coasting a little bit as we're going through some tight stuff. And it's like I would think I'm in my own car for a second, and then you step on it and you're not.
Yeah.
Very much not.
Yeah.
It's rare nowadays to be in a car where when you step on it, like you're kind of afraid to take your hand off the wheel to make the gear shift.
Yeah.
Because anything that's fast that I've driven in the last like 5 years is paddle shift.
Yeah.
And in newer cars, you just like, you're so planted, you're so safe, and you've got paddle shifts.
Yeah.
And in this car, you're in a very short wheelbase car.
Yeah.
It is ostensibly just like an SC, except with like more tire, but you're not necessarily using that, but you're
power steering.
feeling like you're in that. The power steering luckily doesn't really impede. It just kind of makes it easier at low speed, but it doesn't really, you don't really feel it when you're going.
Okay.
It doesn't really change things.
Yeah.
The bigger brakes don't massively change things if you're not fully using them, which I was definitely not.
Yeah. That's very cool.
It was so cool. And also I have to say, I've always been critical of the 993 interior because it's always kind of like the bridge between like old 911 and like 996.
Yeah.
And this one, which is fully leather trimmed, like everything is leather trimmed, is actually so remarkably precise. The door trimming, all of that is very precise.
Yeah.
And the dash looks very nice. And the leather just makes it a little bit better. It makes it all very nice. It's a very nice, comfortable place to be.
Final evolution of like the same dashboard they've had for like decades at that point.
But it's a nice evolution. It's not like the compromised mess that I imagined it to be or remembered it being.
Would you say that this is an experience worth the 100,000 to near $500,000 if you had a Turbo S?
Turbo S is probably just worth it if you're a collector.
Yeah.
But Turbo at 100K, it's like there is not going to be an experience like this. I mean, it's everything you like about an air-cooled 911, except with massive amount of power and torque, and just, I mean, we would be on these roads, and I'm like fourth in line. I'm fourth out of 4 cars, and I would just breathe on the throttle, and it's just picking up, and it gets into the boost, and it's so fast. I mean, you could just be 2 gears up and step on it and just whoosh to the next car.
Yeah.
It was very incredible. And the tack is super weird because like it has like dials. It has like a digital dial in the bottom half of the tack.
It has a little screen.
The tack kind of goes like from I guess like 5 o'clock to like 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so it's like 1,000 to 3,000 RPM is almost unreadable because the numbers are smaller, and then but the car at 4,000, that's when shit happens.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was really cool.
Man, and did they ever have like a depreciation basement? I mean, I'm sure. I mean, yes, but I mean, like, were they really not worth something ever? Like, it was never in like a 930 situation where like you pick one up for like 20 grand.
No, I don't think so. I think. I mean, I would guess the bottom was probably like
50.
Yeah, I would guess.
Maybe, yeah, because it still would have been kind of a new car.
Yeah.
And then I think like the 996 was fine for a while until people started not liking. Well, no, I mean they were worth fine until the 997 came out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But also, I did drive that 944
S2. And was it as torquey as?
I would say no. It was. I mean, I've driven Steph's 944, and it's not an S2, but it is stripped out. And this felt like that. It's a weird ass clutch position where you could be at a light and you're like, I need to actually take my foot off the clutch and reposition my foot on the pedal so that I can slip it properly because it's such a weird position. It was pretty doughy, soft, cushy.
Yeah.
Jordan said when he switched off, he's like, the 944 is like this car and the SC probably have like the same amount of power. He's like, SC has a lot less weight. They deliver everything differently. Yeah, it's crazy. I got back in the SC, and honestly, it was so precise and like raw, and like everything's instant. Yeah, my car doesn't have power, but it is like everything is very instant. Right. And the 944, everything is like very delayed and cushy. I was not the biggest fan of it, but also I had just come out of a 993 turbo.
Also, those relative experiences I think would shift your experiences a little bit.
I think an SC holds up after a 993 turbo because it's actually
I would agree.
Slightly sharper,
that's the whole
and then
point.
Also because I don't have this 993 had some suspension tuning, which was good, except there was kind of a dead spot in the middle of the steering.
But it's that 911 formula that will always hold true, like because the 944. For lack of a better description, is just like a very normal and traditional car setup.
It's normal, and then if you're on the really twisty stuff, like I did feel more comfortable pushing that than I would.
It's a good car still. The 944 is a good car still. And like when you look at it objectively, like it's fine. But then when you kind of compare it to very immediate, like very good 911 experiences, I mean, you're likely to go for that very different and likely very positive experience, especially a 993 turbo. Yeah. So that's a hard follow-up to that. But that's cool. I am jealous. I
do wonder how it would compare to like a 996 turbo. Yeah. But I think
I have not driven a 996 turbo. And
the size, the short wheelbase, like the narrowness, like at least at the cabin.
The narrows of I would say like the rear is very wide.
Yeah, the rears are wide, but then the cabin is so narrow like that. I think it adds to the experience. It makes it different.
Yeah. That car though,
there's that kind of grit. In like the pedals, which I like.
Still feels old. I mean, like there are bits of your car in that car. Yeah. Which is
the roof.
The roof is identical. But that one day we do have to source a 996 turbo to see what that's all about. And I have, for a long time, I had considered like one, and then I was just kind of down on the 4-wheel drive system that it had one. And then I've just talked to people who have said that the 4-wheel drive system is not a deal killer. Like, in fact, it is not intrusive at all. Yeah. Like, it aids that's when you want it to aid.
That's what I gathered from the 993 turbo, which is also all-wheel drive. Yeah. Obviously, older technology, but it was not intrusive, not noticeable. And then the guy that I was driving with. Like the guy in the passenger seat was one of Jordan's employees, and he had driven up in that car on Friday in the rain, and he's like, "Yeah, it kind of saved me like twice."
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good car. Good color. That is perfect spec.
Arena red.
Arena red.
The right spec.
The right spec.
And turbo twists.
Oh, and yeah. Of course, you have to have the turbo twist.
Which I feel like now, like 50% of 993 turbos have 996 wheels.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, well, I think that's a podcast.
I think you're right.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Goodbye.